Thank you, Senator Bono. At this time, I'd like to introduce Assemblyman Gary Schaer. I first met Assemblyman Schaer in, I guess it was 2005 when he first ran for the Assembly, and I've gotten to know him since and members of his staff. And I would just tell you that he, and collectively with a recently retired member of the Assembly, Assemblyman Fred Scalera, have probably introduced more legislation dealing with people with disabilities than anyone I can think of in the history of the state legislature. So I'm very proud of what Assemblyman Schaer has done and what Assemblyman Scalera had done as well. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce Assemblyman Gary Schaer.
Good morning. Sorry, but when one has the opportunity to kiss the majority leader of the Senate hello, one usually wants to afford oneself of that opportunity. It is a great pleasure to be here this morning to join with you at this important conference and to acknowledge, as Senator Cunningham, Senator Bono, Senator Sarlo have said, and I'm sure you'll hear later in the day from other legislators as well, the incredible work that Sal Pizzaro has done, the single-mindedness that he has approached the subject of disabilities, certainly in terms of autism first and foremost. I was looking at all of the legislators who are going to appear today, and I thought to myself, thank God we're not all here together, or else we'd have a quorum call right here in East Rutherford. There are a lot of them. And they reflect not only their concern, but most importantly, their recognition of the tremendous importance of this issue, as well as of all of you sitting in this room. Your advocacy is important. Your advocacy is vital. I would be telling you something that was not true so early in the morning by suggesting that it was not. We also owe a debt of gratitude, as we know, to Michael Rickards and to George Hall for the work historically that they've done in so many issues, certainly autism first and foremost as well. One last person I'd like to mention who is not here, and I don't believe who is due to be here, is someone who served as my mentor for the first 4 years that I served in the Assembly. I'm now completing my 6th. That gentleman's name is Joe Roberts. It might be a name that rings a bell with you. Joe Roberts served for over 22 years as a member of the General Assembly, representing the Camden District. He also served for 4 years as Speaker of the New Jersey State Assembly. And I will admit to you that he single-handedly, as a result of the advice and guidance that he received from Sal and George and Michael and so many others, that he single-handedly marshaled through the Assembly, and with the good help of Senator Cunningham and so many others on the Senate side, was able to pass more legislation in a 2-year period than any other state in the Union. And to him, we all owe such a significant debt of gratitude, as we know. When Sal was gracious enough to call me and ask if I would do the keynote this morning, one thing immediately occurred to me, and that is, number one, how does one say no to Sal Pizzaro? And number two, why precisely am I being asked to speak? It seems to me at conferences like this, one generally looks to a scholar, to an academic, to even a practitioner, to share insights which can only be given by those who are in the thick of it. But somehow it dawned upon me that as a result of the studies that we have accomplished already, as a result of the scholarship which has already been done and continues to be done, because more scholarship, more research is fundamental and vital, that nonetheless, this conference, this gathering represents as well a time not only for scholarship, but a time of recommitment and commitment to action as well. As such, certainly, your recognition that the legislature and the executive, the governor's office, are vital to getting this agenda passed is one which is well-founded. I'm a poor representative of the legislature, but nonetheless, if you'll allow me. Let me first share with you figures which all of you know well and live and breathe each day. Between 1 and 94 or 1 and 96, depending on who you'd like to believe, children in the state of New Jersey have autism. 80% are under age 21, 25,000 in New Jersey. In the United States, according to the CDC, 1 in 166 children has autism. There has been no answer, only supposition, in terms of why the New Jersey figure is almost double the national figure. 2,355 students in 1999 were formally recorded as having autism. In 2005, that figure increased to 6,665, and that figure is in 2005. It tripled in just those 6 years. One's expectation is obviously that the number is even higher today. Another set of numbers, perhaps more frightening. In October 2009, the waiting list for housing services from the state of New Jersey was 8,000. Since that time, between 50 to 150 disabled adults have been provided with housing. It will take the state of New Jersey 53 years to provide the vital housing that is required for its disabled citizens. And that is assuming that no one is added to the list. The news gets only more disconcerting. In a survey of children with autism, 34% of respondents had no or little confidence in the success of transition planning when they would opt out of services provided by the state. 30% had no transition plan at all, a recognized and fundamental document for their success. Only 26% were fairly confident or confident when reaching the opt-out period. And despite legislative initiatives in Trenton, and there have been many, and many were signed by the governor, although there are others to do and to accomplish. Nonetheless, these figures fly in the face of the fact that New Jersey is one of the most advanced states in its recognition of autism and how best to deal with it. Someone said to me the other day, if these numbers suggest a state which is at the forefront, my gosh, can we only imagine where state number 49 and 50 is ranked, and why? We are woefully overwhelmed by the issue's complexity and by its treatment, and exacerbated by a failing economy and impact on state resources. Bills that would allow numerous vital components of solving the issues confronting men and women and children with autism have yet to be accomplished. And yet, despite this cloud, if you will, at the same time, we're greeted with news that Representative Chris Smith and Senator Menendez, a Republican and a Democrat, what a novel idea in Washington, and perhaps after hearing about the lack of attendance of my Republican colleagues this morning at this important conference, what a novel idea in Trenton as well. That a Republican and Democrat would come together to ensure the reauthorization bill, which provides $693 million in so many vital areas of autism. $22 million for surveillance and research, $48 million for autism education, early detection and intervention, $161 million for research grants. Perhaps there is hope after all. Clearly, efforts to create a holistic and encompassing program must be continued. And first and foremost, I would argue amongst those, must be the role of our schools in not only identifying autism, but also providing solutions while a child is in school, and vitally, importantly, ensuring that when a child well before the 21 opt-out period, but at age 17, or perhaps even younger, a meaningful, realistic transition plan is drafted and agreed upon. We need to ensure that trained and qualified staff are available. We need to ensure that communities, colleges, and senior colleges are offering courses, and students are encouraged to take those courses, which will not only provide them understanding of autism, but more importantly, actively work with the autistic community. And we must recognize as well the individual needs, the specific individual need of each child through the IEP. Mainstream where possible, utilize services of the community. At the same time, we greet with concern the cuts that were recently made by Governor Christie to the budget, which take away funds for a fundamental area, and that is in terms of adult medical daycare, which has unfortunately been severely cut as well. And those services, of course, benefit and are vital to the autistic community. But we know these figures, we know this information already. Despite reservations in a number of areas, one overriding concern, I would argue, again, confronts us, and that is aging out. The lack of transition when one hits that magic age of 21. The February 07 issue of the Journal of Intellectual Disability Research, in a study of 44 adults with autism, reported, unsurprisingly, that those who were supported in their employment status showed higher scores for executive functions. Not only did they have increased chances at employment, but their cognitive performance increased. The current statistics are dismal. Only 3% of adults with autism are full-time employees. Only 6% have paid full-time jobs. 49% live with family members, and 32% in residential care facilities. But in examining the cost of intervention, and costs are something which is on everyone's mind, and I must tell you that I stand before you as a relatively conservative member of the Democratic Party who believes that jobs must be created in this state and in all states to bring the economy where it needs to be. But nonetheless, one needs to look at the other side of the cost factor, and that is parents, guardians, brothers and sisters who must leave positions that they've had in order to take care of siblings or children who suffer with autism. It is estimated that the cost to society of those people needing to take off to care for and treat their siblings or children is more than equal to the cost of the treatment of the siblings alone, had it been provided by qualified care professionals in certain circumstances. Certainly, research demonstrates time and time again that preparation, education, and the greater awareness of all concerned when children with autism are in schools is critical to their future success. The Autism Task Force of October 09, in one of its numerous recommendations, states that school districts, quote, school districts should be required to advise parents and guardians of all ASD students regarding the student's legal right with graduation, transitional, and post-school services within 30 days of their 17th birthday. I don't know if conferences like this or any conference will ultimately discover the causes for autism, the reason why New Jersey's numbers are twice those of the nation. But I do believe that it's within our grasp to ensure that the most critical problem, what do we do when children become adults? What do we do when children who are 21 become 30 and 40 and their parents become 60 and 70? What do we do when? The IEP must become the organic document that it was intended to be, rather than simply a form which parents are encouraged to sign by schools as a way to fulfill one of many, many documents. It must be a living document. It must reflect the needs, the abilities of the child, and how best to direct that child as he or she continues in his or her life. In a survey of 732 children who have autism, 84% expressed aspirations to attend college or continuing education in the 14 to 17-year-old category. Almost 80% of those in the 18 to 21 category expressed interest in day programs. 42% of 22 to 45-year-olds in full-time jobs, and 56% in part-time positions. The willingness of youth with autism to involve themselves is there. The challenge before us now is our willingness as a society to express concretely the same willingness to recognize that diversity is not only a matter of race or religion or national origin, but necessarily includes ability as well. We need to encourage greater and deeper collaboration between government and the private sector to support job creation utilizing the abilities and the talents of all members of our society. We need greater collaboration between government and higher education to encourage our community colleges and four-year universities to develop curriculums offering students courses in working with the disabled, such as Caldwell College in Essex County now offers as well. To create business opportunities for the construction of residences which recognize and meet the needs of youth, young adults, and adults with autism. But most of all, we need to recognize the positive impact that government can and must have in promoting opportunity for all of its citizens. That is the challenge that we must accept in order to fulfill the rightful destiny, not only of our disabled population, but I would argue the promise of America itself and its promise to all of its citizens, no matter who they are. Thank you so very much, ladies and gentlemen.